who's the buyer for one of these retrofitted buildings that has had a substantial facelift? Hello, welcome to A Higher Law, Cannabis podcast presented by Dykema. I'm your host, Sam Kilberg, an attorney here in our real estate and cannabis group, and I have the privilege of being joined today by Stephanie Goodman, the founder and CEO of Bricks and Mortar Cannabis Group, a real estate development company that specializes in cannabis, in the cannabis industry. So, Stephanie, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for the invitation.
So for those who don't know about your company, Bricks and Mortar Group, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started in the industry, and what you guys do?
Yeah, so I got started in real estate about 10 years ago, non-cannabis related. I was investing in properties, flipping houses. We started doing some business brokering, and we actually had a party reach out to us who were not related to cannabis whatsoever, but they wanted to sell their dispensary. And this was right at the beginning of legislation in Michigan. And this seemed kind of crazy to us, but we started looking into it and saw kind of how the industry was getting started. There was actually a huge demand for it. So we ended up listing that dispensary for sale and selling it for them, and that's kind of how we got started. We saw this huge need. People wanted to get into the industry, but they really didn't know how. So we started segueing into cannabis more and more, and then eventually decided just to specialize in that 100%.
Nice. So that was, and you said it was 5 years ago?
About 7 years ago.
Or 7 years ago? Okay, yeah. So a lot has happened, I think, in the industry since then. So I just want to talk, what are you seeing from the industry today? Where in the real estate, the sales, I think there was obviously a mad rush to buy property a couple of years ago. It's kind of a cooling off period now, but kind of what are you seeing from the industry?
Over the past 6 months especially, we've seen a significant cooling off period. Now there's a lot of people that are trying to exit. So there were, even a year ago, we would list a grow for sale in Metro Detroit saying get like 30 showings and 4 or 5 offers. Now we list one, it'll sit on market for 3 months. We might get 1 or 2 offers on it. There's a lot of people that got started with their construction and didn't finish and ran out of money. So we're getting probably 10 calls just this week from growers that need to get out. So I expect over the next 12 months or so for there to be a large exit and a lot of opportunity if you're in the right position to take advantage of it.
I'd like to talk about that, but I guess going back even farther, how do you think we got to this point, right? Where now you have this cooling off period?
So it was kind of like a gold rush, I would say. There's this perception that there's lots of money to be made in marijuana, or there was a few years ago anyways, and everybody was trying to jump into it. It was the new hot thing. There were these pro formas that people were putting together as if they get $1 million investment, they can turn it into $20 million in a couple of years. We got pitched on that, I don't know how many times.
Yeah.
And maybe that worked for a couple of people, most of them it didn't. If you're the only party, like if you're the one grower in the industry, you can set prices, you have a chance of doing really well. But as more competition comes in, it turns into a normal business, which you have to be able to manage your costs, market to the right groups. It's totally different than it was 2 years ago.
Yeah, we're seeing even this year, right, the retail price of cannabis from an ounce. I think the latest report out of the CRA in October was an ounce of retail cannabis was $102, which is down roughly 74% from 2 years ago, 50% from a year ago. So I think the margins for people are getting really razor thin. And I don't know if there's, if it's going to get better with the amount of product that's out there. So, it's an interesting, you see this, because I agree. We're seeing a lot of people trying to restructure or sell. There are still opportunities, I think, to buy in low pocket regions in Michigan. But I've always had this thought where you have a retail establishment, right? It's, in my opinion, it's easy to flip in the event of an exit because it's a retail, right? You just swap out the product. A lot of the locations for retail were chosen for it being retail. And what are these growers doing? Because obviously they're retrofitting these buildings with a substantial amount of infrastructure, the HVAC, the plumbing, the electrical. Who's the appetite or who's the buyer for one of these retrofitted buildings that has had substantial facelift?
There are still some people that want to get into the marijuana industry or want to expand their operations, and they're looking for grows at less than cost.
Mhm.
So if they're doing well in their other locations, they might want to add on another grow. So we do have buyers in that situation. We also have some that are just looking for a deal. So if they can get it for half of the cost of the build out, then they'll move on it. But in general, other uses for those locations are going to be limited. There are businesses that need the heavy power that goes into marijuana grow, but the lighting, I mean, even just the past few years, the technology in lighting has advanced so much, people don't even want that equipment anymore.
Interesting.
So you kind of you would definitely decrease in value the day you build it out. If you can't make money at that business,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be challenging.
Interesting. Yeah, I've been thinking about that for a while because I see, obviously I've seen the pro formas. I do a lot of the local licensing, so I do a lot of the zoning and land use. And, I submit the application that has the beautiful photos of these massive facilities, and I've always
Architectural renderings of
yeah, the renderings of what it looks like. I've toured them. They're beautiful. I mean, they're laboratories. They're spaceships on the inside. They're very well done. But I always thought about that on like how would you transition to a different industry? And I agree. I think the possibility in the future, and kind of how I see it, and disagree if you think so, but you're going to have these facilities being sold, and there's opportunities to buy them for less than cost and kind of get them for maybe pennies on the dollar in the event that it goes federal. Like, and that's my next question. I mean, what do you think happens if it gets federally passed? Right? I mean, where do you see the real estate market going? It's going to have an impact, obviously, with everything.
Yeah, and I think that was part of the gamble of everybody kind of saying, oh, it's going to go federal eventually. So I'm going to take my 5 stores and I'm going to sell it to a tobacco company or alcohol
Yeah,
company.
that was a common one.
Yeah, and people still think that, but it's not going to be everybody, and that's a very common plan. If it does go federally legal, there's going to be a lot more lending available in the industry, which I think will help with values of real estate and assets significantly.
Mm-hmm.
But we also have this other thing kind of happening on a macroeconomic level with interest rates going up across the board. So nobody really counted on, or nobody predicted that happening. So we kind of have 2 different things. Commercial real estate in general, I think, is going to be depressed. But yeah, federal legalization would definitely help with the marijuana industry, especially if you can export product, because there are states that haven't allowed it yet. So there's still demand for product in those areas, and we have the product. If we're able to export, that would be a whole different ballgame. But I wouldn't start the business betting on that.
Yeah, no, yeah, I agree. So, in the event of an exit, I guess what are you telling your clients? I mean, there's a lot to consider. I know from the legal side, at least, for the transfer of licenses at the local level, in addition to the state level. I mean, you have the assets, you have the building itself. I mean, what are you telling people? I guess when they come to you, like you were saying earlier, you have growers who need financing or need an exit. I guess what's the strategy there?
It depends on the position of their grow. So if they're operating and it's cash flowing, that's a little bit different. We'll actually sell the business and let people know what the numbers are and like here's the opportunities for improvement here.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them are in a position where they're losing money. So in that case, it's just going to be a real estate and asset sale.
Yeah.
Some of them are half built out, and that we're kind of having difficulty valuing that because somebody has to come into a half completed project that had various reasons why it failed, but a lot of it has to do with the contractors. So they kind of have to pick up the pieces and figure out what's going on. So the cost of those or the price that we can ask for that is going to have to be a lot lower than if the seller is able to finish the project out before listing it. We evaluate each one on a case-by-case basis. Sometimes it makes more sense to sell it to a standard industrial user.
Mm-hmm. Are you seeing any pushback? Because, like I said, I handle a lot of the local licensing as well as doing the real estate aspect. But are you seeing any pushback from municipalities when you go to transfer those, or when you sell them because they were sold on this operator building this facility this way, and then you have to get most of the local licenses I've seen. You have to get local approval to transfer that license or to transfer your special land use or site plan approval. Are you seeing kind of any pushback? Because I haven't. I haven't run into a situation where we've done that, but I could see a local municipality not approving a transfer, I guess.
We did have pushback a few years ago, and even up to a year ago,
Mhm.
some of the cities were not happy about it whatsoever. It seems like they're all kind of getting used to the idea that these are going to change hands.
Yeah, exactly.
Even some of the cities that wouldn't allow it before, they put processes in place. And then part of it is they realize they can charge another $5,000 application fee, and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden they're a little more cooperative.
Yeah, interesting. So not all doom and gloom, right? There's a lot of people exiting, but I think there's a lot of people entering. So, I mean, where do you see the pockets for opportunity, I guess, for somebody who's trying to enter or for an existing operator, and that's looking to expand their facilities?
Sure. So if you're going to enter, I think it just needs to be looked at as any other kind of business. What do you bring to the table that is better than everyone else? What's your competitive advantage? Um, if you have that mindset and you build your business around being best at something, then it's a great time to get in because you can get in at much less than what it would cost you to build it. So if you buy a facility, say there's a remote operator, there's a lot of these that are owned by out of state owners and they're not really monitoring it very well.
Yeah.
So they could come in, if they have a good business plan, they can buy a business for a lot cheaper. It would cost them to start it from scratch and then implement their own processes and their own brand. So I think there's a good opportunity there. We do see demand for retail still, good retail locations,
Yeah.
like you said. Not just on the real estate side either. There's always demand for good retail locations in general, but retail dispensary locations are still in demand because people need the outlet for their product. And some areas are still limited. Like Metro Detroit, there's not that many stores. There's a lot more than there was a few years ago, but with the population here, it could sustain more.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and you're now seeing, I think Detroit finally may allow.
Yeah, see.
Others we will see. It's been a long journey, but no, I agree. For the most populated area in Metro Detroit, obviously where we live, you would think there would be more retail, and I think there obviously is capacity because the price. I think a lot of it's fluctuating based on you have all these growers, and there's a lot of retail spots, but there's not as many to think fit the demand for at least this local area. But there's other demands as well. I mean, you have all the border areas, down by Ohio, by Indiana, up by Wisconsin, up in the UP. I mean, those areas I think are still very much, it could fit more retail as well.
Yeah, there's even some rural areas that are doing really well if there's a limited number of dispensaries out there. So there's some areas that I wouldn't have guessed would be a great dispensary location, but they're turning a good profit just because there's not much competition in the area.
That's the key,
Yeah.
right? No, that's great. So going forward, I guess what changes do you think would help the industry? Right. I mean, I think we all agree there's kind of this cooling off period. A lot of it's can't be controlled by us. I mean, obviously with the interest rates going higher, I agree on the commercial side. There's tends to be a cooling off period, but for me, I mean, the biggest one I see that could help the industry would be, and I know it's been litigated, and would be them coming through and changing Section 6 that would just essentially allow existing medical facilities to just be given an adult use license and not have to go through any process or anything, and just be grandfathered in, stamp, give them a rubber stamp and move on. Because in my opinion, the medical industry in the future is going to become obsolete and it will just all become one adult use.
I agree.
Kind of, that's how I see going in the future. I could be wrong, but I think that's where most people see. I mean, the MMA is going to phase out. I think medical will phase out, and it will just be cannabis. It won't have the tag of adult use versus medical. And so that transition, I think, will only be further improved by changing Section 6. And that's kind of the obvious one I run into because I do a lot of the local licensing. So I deal with a lot of people who, bought the property 3 years ago as a medical, and they're just kind of sitting on it, hoping for the adult use, or they bought it, they opened it, ran it, and then had to shut their doors because they were hemorrhaging money because the medical was just kind of going down and they weren't having the demand that they were having years ago. And so they want to hold on to the property because in the event that it changes to adult use, it's a whole other world. So that's kind of the obvious one I see. Is there any others that you think would potentially help the industry?
I definitely think they should combine the adult use and the medical. I think there would be some difficulty just at the municipal level because they give the municipalities so much power. But as far as other things that would help the industry, I think taxes are a big issue with everybody, but specifically the marijuana industry because they can't deduct a lot of expenses that other people can.
Yeah.
So even if there was something at the state level to kind of ease that burden a little bit, I think would be helpful. That's probably the main one. There's been some discussion about limiting licenses at the state level so no more new entrants can come in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I agree with that necessarily because it's ironic that this industry was built on kind of let us do what we want and don't have so much government oversight.
Yeah.
Now we want government oversight.
I agree. I think that would be a swing and a miss. No, it's great. And I guess, is there anything else that you were thinking of that you want to talk about here today?
Well, I think so. Not every operator is going to go under, right? So there's companies that are just going to keep pushing forward and make it through this, and there's
Yep.
going to be an upside on the other end of the bubble. The few that are left, if they can make it through the decreased numbers that they're seeing on the price of product, make it another year or two and stabilize, I think that the prices are going to even out. Everyone can't sell at less than cost forever.
No.
So there's going to be some that can hang on. There's a few ways to do that. One big one I've seen is related to real estate is the property taxes. A lot of the counties and cities are jacking up property taxes on these grows.
Mm-hmm.
So we started working with a group that fights property taxes for marijuana facilities.
What is that group?
Well, they're actually with us.
Oh,
now.
okay, great.
So we just signed with them last week.
Oh, that's awesome.
So you can reach out to us and we can put you in touch with them. It's an attorney that's handling it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have, I know Carl Rashid is our go-to guy for top property tax appeals here in Michigan.
Have you been doing many for marijuana facilities?
I believe Carl has been doing some of them. I know he's kind of the go-to guy for actually all industries for property tax appeal. But I know that I think some of our clients have reached out to him. He's handled some of them. But we can bring Carl on the podcast next to give us a full rundown on property tax appeals.
We buy property too and sell it. And even before improvements, we've had property taxes get like 5 times just because it's now marijuana related. And so we're fighting those. But
is it the uncapping? Is that why it's been sitting for so long? Or is there other reasons? Just reassessments?
Reassessments. But I don't think they're reasonable.
Yeah, that's why you're fighting them, right?
Yeah. So when somebody puts several $1 million into a marijuana grow, and then all of a sudden the value of the property is considered much higher.
Mm-hmm.
Now with the prices going down, it's going the other way. So I think it's a good position. Somebody's in to fight.
No, I agree.
But basically, if they can lower costs across the board, anything they can do to kind of weather the storm, I do think it will eventually level out like every other industry does.
Yeah.
And there's going to be some people that survive it and keep going.
Yeah, I think a huge part that would help that before even just federally illegal is just changing the banking, is allowing them to do tax write-offs on their business. I mean, you have these businesses running and they can't write off any expenditures. I can't think of another industry where that's the case.
It's hard enough to stay in business with a standard business.
I know, exactly.
Add all these other hurdles on.
Yeah. So is there other ways that they can combat that? I mean, I guess the biggest thing I've seen from a lot of clients, I guess, because I was thinking about this in my drive-in today, was purchasing versus leasing. I mean, I think a lot of people, the original thought was you buy the property, put it into a holding company, and then you lease it to yourself, and then you pay yourself rent to hold on to it. Is that still people still structuring deals like that? That's how I've structured most of my deals. Are you seeing same, different? Is there other ways? Because for the exit, I think it's a little easier because you can transfer a lease, and a lot of times that entity can hold on to the property and keep leasing it to the new organizer until they're satisfied, or build a sale into the deal. I mean, obviously every deal is going to be structured differently, but are you seeing any differences 2 years ago to now with people coming into or exiting the market, sell versus lease?
They're almost all structured like that. Like you said, one company owns the real estate and one company owns the business, and there's various reasons for that, liability and tax purposes and stuff. We aren't really seeing any that are only selling the business and keeping the real estate at this point. I think usually because they're kind of in a bad situation and they need the cash across the board.
Yeah.
There are some deals where there might be an investor on the real estate side that's kind of partnered with the grow in some capacity or the dispensary. And real estate, it's a lot more easier for people to grasp onto as collateral, standard mortgages, things like that. So, it's pretty much the same structure. There's different structures with the sales of selling assets or buying the companies. A lot of that, it used to have to do with the cities, whether they would transfer permits.
Yep.
But there's been a lot easier to work with cities lately, so there typically have been asset sales, and then they'll sell the real estate into a different entity.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm seeing the same thing, so I'm glad we're on the same page. Um, well, that was everything I had today. Stephanie, thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
If anybody wants to follow Stephanie, what are your socials or how can they get in contact with you?
Our website is the main place where we post everything. That's bricksmortarcannabis.com. We put all of our properties for sale on there. It's updated daily. We're also about to launch an auction platform to kind of cater to this changing market.
Mhm.
So we'll see that in the next couple of weeks. Our first auction will be in January. Um, our office, I'm up there every day, Monday through Friday. So
Well, thank you so much, Stephanie. I appreciate it. That's it for us today. You can follow this podcast at youtube.com/ahigherlaw. My name is Sam Kilbert, and thank you. We will see you again.